Hi, this is David Thompson again with DocuTech, bringing you episode 13 to our TRIDcast series. At DocuTech, we commit to being industry innovators in technology, compliance, and overall customer satisfaction. And with that drive, we wanted to know what would be helpful information for our clients with the new TILA-RESPA integrated disclosures. These TRIDcast episodes are a direct response from the feedback we received. In this episode, we'll be discussing filling out the projected payment tables. Today we're privileged to have with us Timothy Rady and Amanda McMurtry, two of DocuTech's regulatory compliance specialists. Both have many years of experience in legal and compliance and have been more than valuable in preparing us for the upcoming TRID changes. Timothy, Amanda, thanks for being here today.
All right, thanks, David. So the projected payments table on the LE and CD are substantively replacing the payments tables on the TIL, which were enacted back in 2011. They're somewhat similar, but the new tables have a bit more complicated rules to them. So looking at this fixed rate table, which is an example provided by the CFPB, the projected payments tables show estimates of the periodic payments that the consumer will make over the life of the loan. Now, periodic payments are the regularly scheduled payment of principal and interest, mortgage insurance, and estimated escrow. On the table, creditors must disclose estimates of the following payment amounts from the periodic payments: principal and interest, which is in the first row, mortgage insurance, estimated escrow, an estimated total monthly payments, and estimated taxes, insurance, and assessments. And these need to be disclosed even if they are not paid with escrow funds. The table also describes whether taxes, insurance, and other assessments will be paid with funds in the consumer's escrow account, which you'll see there in the bottom right-hand corner. And I'll turn this over to Amanda to talk about the columns.
The creditor should show in one column the initial periodic payment or the range of payments for the principal and interest, the mortgage insurance, and the estimated escrow. Depending on the features of the loan, subsequent periodic payments also may be required to be disclosed. To calculate the initial periodic payment, use the interest rate that will apply at closing, including any initial discounted or premium interest rate. If the interest rate is not shown, such as in an adjustable rate loan without an introductory fixed rate period, use the fully indexed rate to determine the initial periodic payment. Remember from last week that the fully indexed rate is the interest rate calculated using the index value and margin at the time of consummation.
Yes, and turning now to our IO ARM interest-only ARM table from the CFPB with mortgage insurance. You'll notice that there are more than just one column printing here because different loans will have different features and different payments over the life of the loan. The CFPB has limited it to 4 columns, and whether you print the columns or not is going to depend on what type of event happens that would trigger a whole new column to print. Some of those triggering events are the principal and interest amount or range of such amount may change. For example, as shown on this example, if the loan is an ARM, your payment's going to change every time the interest rate changes. For negative amortization, principal and interest amount may change when the negative amortization period ends and the fully amortized period begins, and that'll change your payment. Interest only, when your interest only payment ends, you will start paying on principal and interest, and that will change your payment. And minor periodic payment variations resulting solely from the fact that months have different numbers of days are not triggering events for these purposes. A column that triggering event that would cause another column to print would be if there's a balloon payment. And another triggering event that is quite interesting is in cases where the lender must automatically terminate mortgage insurance or any functional equivalent. Even if the borrower may cancel the insurance earlier, borrower-initiated cancellation rather than automatic termination, use the date when the lender must automatically terminate mortgage insurance coverage under applicable law, including the HPA. Various states like California and New York have different automatic termination requirements. Only termination of mortgage insurance is a triggering event, while declining mortgage insurance premium is not considered one. When the periodic payment amount changes more than once in a single year, show in the subsequent column the periodic payment amounts in the year following the one in which there are multiple changes. A year for this table is the 12-month period following the due date of the initial periodic payments. And Amanda, if you wouldn't mind talking a bit about the number of columns and what columns, special rules for columns that happen with balloon payments.
As Timothy had said, the maximum number of columns the periodic payment table may contain is 4. If a loan has more than 4 triggering events, you are required to show a range of payments in the 4th column that reflect all the remaining periodic payments not shown in the first 3 columns. A balloon payment scheduled as a final payment is a triggering event that always requires its own column. If it is not a final payment, it does not necessarily require its own column. If disclosing the final balloon payment means the only triggering event will not fit within the 4 columns, show the other triggering events as a range of payments in the 3rd column. The automatic termination of mortgage insurance is a triggering event that generally requires the corresponding periodic payment to be shown in its own column, unless doing so would exceed the 4-column maximum. Where the automatic termination of mortgage insurance does not need to be shown in its own column, the column showing the next periodic payment or range of payments should show the periodic payment amount without mortgage insurance. The creditor is required to show a range of payments rather than a single payment when there are more triggering events that can be shown in 4 columns, so one column must be used to show 2 or more periodic payments. When more than one of the triggering events occurs in a single year, or one of the triggering events occurs in the same year as the initial periodic payment. And when the principal and interest payment may adjust based on an interest rate index and the rates are not yet known. For a column that contains a range of payments, show both a minimum and a maximum payment using rounded dollars as shown in our table. For adjustable rate loans, use the maximum and minimum interest rates that could apply, such as through an interest rate cap. Ranges of payments are required only for principal and interest amounts in the estimated total monthly payments. Do not show a range of payments for mortgage insurance or estimated escrow.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. So looking at our example here, the IO ARM table again, you'll notice that to the right of the payment calculation label, there are column headings, which would indicate that the years that these different payments would be applicable in. For periodic payments that may increase based on an adjustment of the interest rate, you use the maximum loan term possible under the terms of the legal obligation when you use a sequence of whole years, counting from the due date of the initial periodic payment. And for a balloon payment scheduled as a final payment, you use the term final payment as the column heading. Amanda, we're going to now turn to how to fill out the table. Would you mind starting off with principal and interest?
To disclose principal and interest, disclose the amount due for the period shown in the column headings. Use only interest if the payment includes payments for interest only. Calculate the maximum payment by assuming the rate will rise rapidly as possible. Take into account applicable caps on interest rate adjustments and lifetime interest rate cap. For rate changes based on index that has no lifetime interest rate floor, the maximum interest rate is equal to the margin. For negative amortization features, use the maximum payment amount after the end of the period where the principal balance may increase by assuming the maximum principal amount allowed under the terms of the obligation at the end of the period. For balloon payment features, use the assumption for minimum and maximum interest rate above and show a range of payments.
Okay, thanks. So turning to mortgage insurance, as we said before, mortgage insurance includes any mortgage guarantee that provides coverage similar to mortgage insurance. And the official staff commentaries particularly point out VA and RD guarantee fees, which has been a subject of controversy over the years. You disclose the maximum amount of the premium, and you do it as a rounded number. You calculate the premiums based on the principal balance that will exist after any changes to the payment. An interesting rule is that if MI is not required, you don't put NA in the column, you put 0. However, when mortgage insurance is terminated during the periods, you put a hyphen in instead to indicate that. Even if mortgage insurance is on a different schedule than the mortgage payment, you're still supposed to disclose the amount that corresponds with the principal and interest amount disclosed. Okay, Amanda, turning to estimated escrow, would you mind taking that?
To disclose the estimated escrow, disclose the monthly amount the consumer will pay into escrow as shown in our table. Make sure to disclose this number as a rounded number. Disclose 0 if there will not be an escrow account, and disclose a hyphen if there will be an escrow account but will be closed during the applicable periodic payment.
All right. Now going to the last row in that part of the table, the estimated total monthly payment, that number is simply the sum of the principal and interest, mortgage insurance, and estimated escrow amounts disclosed previously. Now, an interesting rule here is you are going to have cases where you are going to be adding rounded and unrounded numbers together. And according to the rules, you when disclosing the estimated total monthly payment, if you have a mixed case like that, you round the total amount if any of the component amounts are rounded. Okay, Amanda, would you mind talking about estimated taxes, insurance, and assessments?
To disclose the estimated taxes, insurance, and assessments, disclose the monthly amount due for property taxes and homeowners insurance charged by co-ops, condos, or homeowners associations. If it is required by the lender, then include ground rent, leasehold payments, and certain insurance premiums or charges. Make sure to disclose this number as a rounded number. The insurance premiums included are for credit life, accident, health, or loss of income insurance, insurance against loss of or damage to property, or against liability arising out of the ownership or use of property, and debt collection or debt suspension. To calculate property taxes, homeowners insurance, and other insurance premium, use the taxable assessed value of the real property securing the transaction after consummation, including the value of the improvements or constructions to the extent known, and the replacement cost of the property over the first year.
Okay. As we mentioned before, the amount disclosed for estimated taxes, insurance, and assessments are amounts whether they are escrowed or not. However, going to the bottom right-hand corner of the projected payments table, this will give the borrower an indication of whether these payments are being made in escrow or whether the borrower will be responsible for paying them on their own, or whether you might have a mixed case. So in the this estimate includes section, you disclose if any property taxes, homeowners insurance, or any other required charges will be paid from an escrow account which is established. You indicate that with yes or no, or if it's a mixed case like property taxes, if they're being paid partly by the consumer, partly by some other entity, you would use the word some. When applicable, you describe briefly the type of charge to the right of the word other for any other charges. And if there's more than one other charge, disclose one type and the phrase additional charges. David, if you wouldn't mind closing us out.
Well, that was a lot of information, guys.
My head is spinning.
So if our audience was to take away one thing from this TRIDcast, what would you say it would be?
I think the key thing with the projected payments table is it can be very overwhelming when you look at the requirements and you really dig into them and get into the weeds. It's usually best to step back and take a look at the table from a broad point of view, what the purpose of it is. And it's basically to give the borrower a snapshot, as much of a good faith estimate as you can over a 30-year loan, which might have whole different features and different payments. Just to give the borrower kind of an idea of what he can expect his payments are going to be, particularly in worst case scenarios, so he can make an informed decision when shopping for loans as to which ones are going to be best suited for his needs.
Well, thank you very much. I know we definitely appreciate all the work that you guys put into these TRIDcasts and gathering the information for us. I know I appreciate it. I learn something new every time I come to these, so thank you very much. For all of our viewers, DocuTech would love to answer any of your integrated disclosure questions, so please submit your questions to trid@docutechcorp.com. To learn about DocuTech, see a previous episode, or to get a copy of today's show sheet, visit our website at www.docutechcorp.com. You can also reach a member of our team at 800-497-3584, and again, thanks for watching.